Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Indianapolis Colts have made a decision on their starting quarterback, and they are going back to their original starting quarterback. How long will Anthony Richardson hold on to the job this time? Also, the Packers may have the next defensive rookie of the year, and the Commanders have the core pieces to be NFC East title contenders for years to come. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
First, the Indianapolis Colts were out at least temporarily on Anthony Richardson. Enter Joe Flacco. Now we're so back with Anthony Richardson. Head coach Shane Steichen announcing that not only is Anthony Richardson going to return to the starting lineup, he is going to return to the starting lineup for the rest of the season. Jake Arthur was in the Indy, talking to the coaches, talking to the players, reacting to this storyline. And Jake, this is very bizarre. What did you hear from the stakeholders about how this all went down and where they go from here?
Yeah, so basically, at least what we're being told. So the thing with Anthony, it really wasn't on-field related as much as some people think it may be. Like, I do think the tap-out thing is probably like the straw that broke the camel's back, but they would never throw him under the bus or anything, but just reading through the tea leaves and all that, I think they expected a lot more from him of the day-to-day grind that it takes to be a quarterback. You know, like when you're a quarterback in the NFL, to be successful, you have to eat, sleep, breathe football. It has to be everything about you, basically. And, you know, his performance on the field, you know, was not doing well. And I think that was probably a direct correlation in their minds, perhaps, to his preparation. They wanted him to mature and everything. And then so they have a guy in there who's been in the league a million years, and Joe Flacco obviously has seen and done everything. He is one of those eat, sleep, breathe football type of guys. So they kind of had the good excuse of the offense being awful under Richardson. So they bring in Flacco, who had done some really nice things in relief of Richardson for about 2.5 games. But then it did not go to plan. You know, there were fans who had been calling for Flacco, and I think the coaches were justified in thinking that maybe Flacco could at least bring some stability. At least that's what I told you at least a couple weeks ago last time we were here talking about this. But I think they overestimated just how big of an issue everything was. I don't think Anthony coming back in here is going to be some sort of fix-all for the offense. Like, the offense may not even look good yet. But, you know, a question I asked Shane Steichen on Monday after last week's disastrous game, I was like, you know, you brought Flacco in to win games. Things look awful. What are you getting out of this? Because, you know, you have the opportunity. If you're going to lose games, you at least have the opportunity to have this young quarterback that you're developing, and you'll know what you want to do with him after the year. I think a little bit of all that came together. But ultimately, Steichen said today that a lot of the things they wanted him to kind of mature about and, you know, work on the fine little details of being a quarterback. Steichen said that he has seen Anthony make great strides on these things over the last couple weeks. So they want to see him doing all the little things right. And it seems like he's doing that, you know, in the weight room, in the meeting room, and walkthroughs on the practice field. You know, coming into the league as the youngest quarterback in the NFL, naturally there was some maturing that needed to be done.
Yeah.
I think probably more so than they anticipated. And so they hit the pause button on him. And, you know, they never wanted to be done with him, but Joe Flacco's offense being so bad kind of gave them the excuse to say, all right, you know, if it's going to suck, we at least need to have the young developmental guy in there.
Okay, so not every player is going to respond positively to this. Mm-hmm. It seems like the Colts are at least happy enough with Anthony Richardson and the way he's responded to say, here, let's go back to this. But that does leave open the question as we see things deteriorate a little in Chicago, where maybe not everyone is giving 100% effort, where Caleb Williams may have not galvanized the locker room the way that they thought. What do you think the reverberations are if this doesn't go well once AR is back under center?
That's a good question. Let's just say it was going to be bad either way. I think this way, there at least looks like there's a plan. Your plan is to find accountability.
There was some accountability from the coaching staff.
Yeah, and you know what you're getting in Anthony Richardson, but for Shane Steichen 2 weeks ago saying he has a responsibility to the 53 guys in the locker room to put the guy out there that gives him the best chance to win. I mean, they weren't winning, obviously, and it didn't look good. And I think you could at least say with Anthony's rushing ability and ability to escape pressure, it at least raises the floor of the offense a little bit. But all the guys we've talked to in the locker room the past couple of weeks, you know, they all support Joe, and they were all, you know, down to be with the veteran quarterback and everything. But there wasn't one guy in there who seemed to be wishy-washy about the status of Anthony. They all were very supportive of Anthony. And, you know, I think they had all, over the last year or so, really bought themselves into the program of we're riding with this young guy, you know, good, bad, ugly, whatever. Eventually we're going to get to a spot where hopefully he's pretty good. And, you know, the plug got pulled early. And, you know, I don't think that some of the players particularly loved that. They were willing to play for Joe Flacco because, I mean, he's a perfectly fine leader. And again, he's been there and done that. But I think the locker room and really, I think the repercussions for them losing are probably better with Anthony Richardson. Like, I think it's less likely that heads would roll in this instance. You know what I mean? Like, at least everybody knows to expect those wild peaks and valleys with Richardson. But if you're throwing a veteran out there who is supposed to bring stability to the offense and it looks as bad as it has, like last 2 weeks have been arguably two of the worst offensive weeks of the Shane Steichen era. You don't have any reasoning or excuses for that anymore.
You can stay up to date all year on the Indianapolis Colts by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Colts on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. We usually think of offense with the Green Bay Packers, but they have a player who has a chance to be defensive rookie of the year. Before we get to that, Aaron Rodgers just can't give up football. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be on Thursday Night Football, let's say. The NFC East lead is on the line with the Commanders and the Eagles getting together. Eagles, slight favorites at home. FanDuel has Philly laying 3.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Aaron Rodgers says he wants to play next year. Speaking to Pat McAfee on his ESPN show, Rodgers said, "I think so, yeah," when asked about next season. He could definitely be hesitant because the Jets are due for some organizational changes after a wholly disappointing season. Rodgers is also in the middle of one of his worst statistical seasons, which is why you may be surprised to learn he wants to come back for more. Underestimate Rodgers' ability to make an odd decision or make a decision that, you know, mostly benefits him at your own peril. The Magic earned a close win over the Pacers at home.
This is Philip Rossman-Wright, the host of Locked On Magic, and the Orlando Magic have done something that very few teams have been able to do against the Indiana Pacers in the last few years, holding them to 90 points, a 94-90 victory over the Pacers. The Magic give up just 18 points in the fourth quarter and really led with their defense. We know, and if you've watched this Magic team at all this year, they can be absolutely devastating on defense. They can go 4 or 5 minutes giving up precious few points, frustrating their opponents, and that's what this Magic team is going to need to lead them and and guide them through the season. This is a defensive team. They entered the game second in the league in defensive rating, and they're playing every bit of it as they go through the course of the season. More than that, this game was a gut check against a playoff quality opponent, a team that they're probably going to be fighting for the rest of the season in the playoff chase. They were down by 10. They could have given up. They could have given in on the second night of a back-to-back, but this team rallied and made this game their own. The Magic are here to stay, even without Paolo Banchero.
The Spurs announced that Greg Popovich is recovering from a mild stroke that he suffered back on November 2nd. Popovich has missed the past 6 games with what the team has previously referred to as an undisclosed medical episode. The Spurs said he started a rehabilitation program and is expected to make a full recovery. There is no timeline for his return, but general manager Brian Wright said that Popovich is, quote, doing well. On the court, Spurs phenom Victor Wembanyama dropped a 50-piece. And speaking of 50 pieces, the Bucks got 59 from Giannis Antetokounmpo to get their first 2-game win streak of the season. They beat the Pistons in overtime without Damian Lillard, Bobby Portis, or Chris Middleton in the lineup. The Packers have one of the best young defensive players in the league this season. Evan Williams joined me on my show, Locked on Packers, to discuss his debut campaign in Green Bay. When did you feel, if you did, but when did you feel the stakes raise? When, okay, you're out of college, you're now going through this very professional process. I know that college has been sort of professionalized in a lot of ways too, but then, hey, this is going to be my job. I'm drafted. I'm a pro. Did you ever have a moment where you're just sort of like, okay, this feels different now?
Yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't even say it's a moment as much as just, every day you're coming in the facility and you just see guys that are pros, right? That have been doing it for so long. And, you've obviously seen their tape, seen them just be successful at what they do for such a long time. And you kind of just see them operate, see their habits, see their film study habits, how they take care of their bodies, their nutrition, what time they come in the building. So you're kind of just like, okay, this is getting real. Like these are grown men with jobs and, I'm fighting for a job myself. And so it's kind of just a steady realization, over a little bit of time, like, okay, this is something I got to take serious. Something, I got to dedicate a lot of time to and just sacrifice. So, it was kind of just over time, probably in training camp, realizing that, okay, this is some, elite competition and I got to be on my best game.
Early in training camp, there were moments where you made a bunch of plays, splash plays, interceptions, and then you're asked about it in the locker room afterward, and you give these in-depth answers about what you're seeing, what you felt, this idea about spatial awareness, and that's something that has really stuck out to me watching your tape in the NFL. Your spatial awareness is especially for rookie, just kind of off the charts. Is that something that you have ever tried to work on, or is it something that comes from tape study? Like, to what do you attribute that ability that you have to sort of feel things and play with instincts that way?
Yeah. Honestly, I attribute most of it to just coaching. I've had the pleasure of just having some, coaches with a ton of experience that, I've loved to play for. And they've just, over my years of 14, 15 years of football that, I've just been able to kind of soak up as much information as I could. And, I would also, attribute that to just the reps, the practice, the, film study, you mentioned it. But just seeing something over and over and kind of, you get these concepts in your head, that are familiar, that, attack your defense in a specific way. And, offenses will dress it up differently, but at the end of the day, a lot of the guys are running the same concepts dressed differently. And so, you just get as many reps as you can. I feel like I've just tried to take practice really seriously, try to just, even if I'm not in the game, take those mental reps just to get to the next level. And instincts is a funny word. I don't know if you're born with it or, if, you learn it over time, but I take that as such a compliment just because I feel like a lot goes behind the scenes, to develop these instincts. And so, I just, attribute it to just my coaching, my teammates helped me out and, just, getting that film room, getting those reps, and it results in some good things.
Stay up to date on the Green Bay Packers all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Packers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Commanders are for real this year and moving forward. The Washington Commanders have had a resurgent 2024, at least so far. Locked On Eagles host Gino Camilleri discusses just that with our NFC squad.
I think they're a legitimate threat. And for the long term, though, they're going to have to make some moves. Obviously, Zach Ertz a little bit older. You have the Eckler element.
Sure.
But I think they have the really core foundational pieces that you look for. They have a great defensive line that's only going to continue to get better. Like you add Johnny Newton into that rotation with guys like Payne. Like they're really, really good on that side of the ball. You bring in Lattimore. Their secondary is only going to get better. But it starts with the quarterback. We were talking about Caleb Williams and his guys potentially not buying into what he's selling. Jake Daniels has a life being the face of used car lots all over the country. Whatever he is selling in that locker room, he got everybody to buy in. And that's what you need in the NFC East, where it quite literally is a year-to-year division.
Yeah.
It takes is one game on the road to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and all of a sudden you can go and win this thing. Now, with that said, to be the king, you got to beat the king. You got to go and knock off the Eagles, who, yes, they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot, and Landon and Marcus got a whole bunch of nice videos out of that last year from my prediction. But the Eagles definitely are at the forefront of this division right now. Washington's not going anywhere, though. They're going to be a scary team. And like you said, they're a year ahead of schedule. Now you only make that rebuild a year earlier. What are they be in 2025? That's the scariest thought.
Here's the thing. I believe strongly that the two most important things for any football team are the coach and the quarterback. And right now, in the NFC East, the best coach is Dan Quinn. And the best quarterback is Jaden Daniels. So forget, they're going to be a problem next year. They're going to be a problem in 2 years. This is a young team. It's low-key not a young team. It's a young quarterback and a young-ish receiver in Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels has been the best quarterback in this division this year. He's a borderline MVP candidate, if not a legitimate one. And Dan Quinn, for whatever shortcomings you think he might have, for however ingloriously his tenure in Dallas ended with a beatdown at the hands of the Green Bay Packers, you may recall, he also once took a team with Matt Ryan at quarterback to a Super Bowl. Now he had Kyle Shanahan on that staff. But tell me why, if Jaden Daniels is a star quarterback, why this can't be a team right now. And I mean starting tonight, to show everyone, hey, we're a good team right now. Forget next year, right now. And finally, Caitlin Clark draws a crowd. Just ask anyone running a basketball arena. But she did so yesterday on the golf course, playing in the LPGA Tour Pro-Am called the Annika, named for Annika Sorenstam. Clark joined Nelly Korda for the front nine and the tournament's host, Sorenstam, for the back nine. Videos have gone viral, however, showed her shanking a tee shot into the gallery. There were plenty of great shots, 2 long putts made. Clark simply said after her round, golf is hard. She signed autographs with people in the gallery afterward. It looks like she, for now, has great shooting on the court, but she does love to play golf. I would bet it won't be long before she looks pretty dang good on a golf course. And if she can draw crowds on a golf course, there's no stopping her. The Caitlin Clark hype train, the train to superstardom, is only just starting to pick up steam. There is so much more out there for her. It's really cool to see. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will Jaden Daniels be able to outplay Jalen Hurts? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.